Okay, this is a continuation video from the previous video. In the previous video, I solved the question in logarithmic time. But the question wants us to solve it in a linear time. So how could we enhance the solution such that the time complexity is linear time? First, we could look at the reason why we had to solve it in logarithmic time. It was due to the sorting of the array. So this gives us the logarithmic time. So how could we remove sorting of the array as part of our solution? We could first explore our current solution. So our current solution, we realize that we are required to skip duplicates. We are required to skip our duplicate here. And a better way to skip the duplicate would be to use our HashSet, right? Okay. But this is still not the solution to get to linear time. Okay, but we could also look at the third part here. Okay, there are two things that we are looking to enhance here. First is we could find out the starts of the new sequence. Okay, so once we find out the start of the new sequence, then we could then calculate longest consecutive number in the new sequence. So right now, how we find out the start of the consecutive right now how our solution find out the start of a new sequence is through this method here, right? So first we check if the previous index is equal to the previous index value is equal to the following index value. If that is the case, that means there is a duplicate and we could skip it. Then if there is a consecutive number, then we could increment the count and then find out the longest count across all the sequences. Then finally, if these two are not available, meaning we had a new sequence here, and then we will reset the counter and we will start over again. Okay, so we need to find a way to figure out the start of a new sequence. And since we have a HashSet here, it would be easy for us to find the start of the new sequence. How we could do it is that let's say, given this example here, let's say we have starting with 0. So how do we know if 0 is the start of a new sequence? We could check that if we minus 1 to it, which will give us -1. So if -1 exists in the array, okay, if it exists in the array, okay, and not exists, okay, so if -1 exists in the array, it means that 0 is not the start of the elements, right? Because there is a smaller number than 0. So this will tell us that this is not the start of the this 0 is not the start of the new sequence. But if 0 does not exist in the HashSet or the array, then we could say that 0 is the start of a new sequence. Okay, so to write this in code, it basically means that if our set does not contain let's say the nums minus 1, then we could say that this is a start of a new sequence. Okay. And then if we are able to find the start of a new sequence, the next step would be to calculate for that particular sequence what is the longest consecutive number. Okay. So the looking up of this HashSet is is in linear time. So it is actually quite efficient. Then we will implement that if we found the start of a new sequence, then we could calculate the longest consecutive number starting from that the number of the new sequence. So what we could do here is we could run a while loop, and then we could look up in the HashSet again. As long as we could find the subsequent number, so meaning the number plus 1, then we could say that this would be the consecutive number here. Consecutive number found. Then we could do the following logic, which is to increment our count, right? Our current count, and then so on and so forth. Okay, but this is the core logic here that could turn this into a linear time solution. Okay, so if not, we could try to solve this question. Let me delete the existing solution here. I think we can keep the longest count. Okay, we can keep the longest count. We don't need to sort. Okay, but we can keep this. If the array is an empty array, then we could just return 0. Okay, that's fine to keep it. Yeah, we could keep this 2 variable here to keep track of the longest consecutive number in the current sequence, as well as the longest consecutive number that was found so far in across all the sequences. Okay, then we could maybe before that we need to initialize our HashSet of integer. Okay, and in this set of integer, we need to add all the numbers from the array nums into the set. So after we have added all the nums into the set, then we will now finally have a non-duplicate list of numbers. Okay, then we can have these 2 variables here. Then we could finally start to with the core logic here. So for all the number in the set, right, first we need to find out the start of the new sequence. So in order to know whether this number is the start of a new sequence, we could do this. So if the set does not contain the number minus 1, that means this is the start of a new sequence. Okay, so that means we found the number for the start of a new sequence. Okay, so once we found the number of the start of the new sequence, then we could start calculating the longest consecutive number in that new sequence. So we could run a while loop here. If as long as the set contains the next number, then we could increment our current count. Okay, and then at the end of it, we could reassign our longest count with the maximum number, either from the current count, or if the longest count is already the largest, then we take the longest count. Let me see if there's anything else that I missed out. I don't think so. Yeah, let's start this. Let's run this. Okay, so there is a time limit as set. Let's see why there is a time limit as set. So when we found the number increment by 1 in the set, then we increment our count. Okay, I understand. So we need to assign our current num to num. Okay, so I could just use current num here. Okay, and then if we increment that by 1 and we found it, then we can increment our current num and our current count. So we can look at the next element in the index. Okay, it passes all the test cases. Okay, there's a wrong solution here. Let's see why. So 1, 2, 6, 7, 8 output is 4, but expected is 3. Okay, 6, 1, 6, 7, 8. So okay, let me just map through this example here. We have 1, 2, 6, 7, 8. Our sets will become 1, 2, 6, 7, 8. Okay, then we will loop through each of the elements starting with index 0, which is 1. At 1, 1 will be the smallest number, okay, because we will not be able to find 0 in this set. Then we will start with this while loop here. So when we start in this while loop, we will see if it contains the next number, which is 2. In this case, the next element, in this case, we found 2. So we will increment our current count from 1 to 2. And our current num will increment from 1 to 2 as well. Okay. And then 2 plus 1. 2 plus 1 will give us 3. In this case, we won't be able to find 3 here. We exit the while loop and we reassign our longest count. And then we move on to the next number, which is 2. And we are at 2, then we will 2 minus 1, which is 1. So this is not the start of the element, so because we found 1 here. So we go to 6, 5. Okay, we realize that 6 is the start of the new sequence. Then we will increment our count because 6 here. Oh, we need to, I understand why, because I think we need to we need to reassign our current count back to 1, I believe. Okay, okay, nice. Okay, so I think we make two mistakes here. Okay, the first mistake that we made here is we didn't increment our current num earlier, and then we did not reset our current count here. I think let's go in further. Why not incrementing our current num here could be a breaking solution. Could be breaking our solution. Okay, because initially our solution was like this, right? Initially our solution was like this. Okay. So if our number let's say we have 0 1 1 with 0 1 1 2, okay, and based on our solution here, our set, when we make it into a set right here, it will become 0 1 and 2. Okay, so this is making it into a set, and for each of the element in the set, we will check if it is a starting of the elements. So let's say now I am at the 0 1 and 0 1 2, right? 0 1 2, yeah. Okay, so let's say we have this set right here, 0 1 2. In order to know if 0 is the start of the element, we'll check if the set contains -1. So in this case, -1 is not available, meaning 0 will be the start of our new sequence. We'll come into this if statement, and then once we know that this is the start of the new sequence, we could run a while loop to find the subsequent number and increment the count if we are able to find the next elements in the set. So in this case, num will always be 0. So when we run the while loop, it will always be 0 plus 1, meaning it will always be 1, right? Because 0 plus 1, the next while loop, it will still be 0 plus 1. But that's not what we want. We wanted the next element to always increment after each while loop. So 0 plus 1 is 1, and then after that 1 plus 1 is 2, so that we could see if let's say we have 3 4 5 6, right? Then we could have 3, and then 3 plus 1 to 4. So in order to do that, we have to write current num, write a new variable here to store num, and then we could replace it here. So now current num will be 0, and then 0 plus 1 will give us 1. Okay, and then meaning that we are able to find the next element in the set, and then we can increment our current num so that it will continue to loop. It will continue with the subsequent element. So 0 1, and then current num will from 1 will become 2, and then 2 exists in the set, then it will increment our current count, and our current num, which is 2, will increment again, so will give us 3. Okay, so the whole loop can keep running. Okay, and the next mistake that we made was we forgot to reset our counter, because ideally after I given this example, right, here, ideally after every sequence, if there is a start of a new sequence, Then we want to reset our counter so that we could calculate the longest sequence, the longest consecutive number in that sequence. So if let's say I added 0, 1, 2. Okay, if let's say we have an element, let's say 5 and 6. That means to make it into set, we'll get this. And this will be our first sequence. In our first sequence, we have the 3 consecutive number. In our second sequence, we need to reset our current count to 0. I mean, current count to 1. Then we'll recalculate again the consecutive number in the second sequence. So this will give us 2. But ultimately, we still want to return 3 because that is the longest sequence in the array. So I think that's our 2 mistake there. But if not, I think we have solved this question in the time complexity of ON, because we are only going through each of the elements in the set, and we are no longer sorting the array.